Welcome back, everyone, to this new episode of My Solo Chronicles. And guess where I'm recording from? That's right, I finally made it to Japan. Oh my goodness, y'all. Getting here was stressful, but it was also interesting as well as hilarious. This episode, I'm going to try to just put it all out there. So, as I told everyone, or I've been telling everyone for months since the beginning of this podcast, I was gearing up to come to Japan. And right now, I'm going to be based in Japan for a year. That's what I'm giving it for right now. But I'm also saying I'm taking it one day at a time. And the lead up to getting here was so stressful. I had already downsized quite a bit before I left California to drive back to Michigan. So that meant that I donated a lot of stuff. I gave away a lot of stuff. I threw away a lot of stuff because I knew I didn't or I couldn't bring items with me to Japan because I was told to travel light by the company that's actually sponsoring me for a year. So I did that. I get to Michigan. I'm home in Michigan for about a month and a half. And I was still right up until the week I was due to leave because I flew out of Michigan March 15th because I had to be in Japan March 16th. So right up until that week of me leaving, I literally was unpacking, packing, unpacking, changing suitcases, putting stuff back into the same suitcases. So it was just insane. And then I was like, okay, I literally have to, again, like I did in California, I have to donate stuff. I have to try to give away stuff. And of course, I ended up leaving some things with my sister friend Tiff and her husband Ed, but then also end up throwing away stuff again. Because my thing is, and I think I've told people this before, if you're going to be traveling, especially a lot, whether you're moving out of the country or moving to another state, just realize stuff that you might have to donate or give away, that's material things because you can always replace those things. And there were a lot of items that, as I'm looking at them and I'm taking them to the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to let it go. But I knew that I didn't have the room to take those items. So to me, I looked at it as those are items that can easily be replaced. And as a matter of fact, since I've been here, I've actually replaced quite a few things that I believe I donated. I don't think I gave them away. So, anyways, March 15th come, and I had two suitcases. So my entire life was in two suitcases and a duffel bag, a medium-sized duffel bag. I get to the airport because I flew Delta, and me personally, I love flying Delta. One, because of my Sky Miles, and if I'm gonna take a bag, I can easily use my Sky Miles, which I found out I could actually use when I flew to London last year. I can use my Sky Miles to pay for my bags or my bag if I have one. I get to the airport and I'm already nervous because I'm like, both of these suitcases are heavy. I know they are. And there is a weight limit, especially for an international flight. Okay, so this is where the shenanigans begin, right when I get to Delta, the terminal. I get, I get the little stickers for my bags. No problem. Well, so I thought it was no problem. This is where the problem came in. When I went to check in, I needed to have a return flight. I don't have a return flight because I booked a one-way ticket because I'm going to be here for a year. So that meant I couldn't check both my bags. I literally looked at that machine and I says, like hell, I'm not gonna check two bags. You're gonna let me check two bags. So what I did was, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else doing this, I just did it to see if it could work. I just randomly put in a return date for next year, like mid March, end of March. And I was able to check my two bags. I thought I was scot free, but still there was like this little nervousness, like it was still this little nervousness I had in the back of my head, like, oh my gosh, what if I have to start taking stuff out? So I get to the counter, my semi medium bag, suitcase rather, I put that on first, just to play it safe. And it was perfect. Oh my gosh, it was well under the 50 pounds, which I was really surprised because to me, it felt heavy. Then I put my large suitcase on the conveyor belt, and now the weight limit is 50, like I just said. My large suitcase clocked in at 51 pounds. So before the girl behind the counter even said anything, I just took my wallet out and I looked at her and I said, "So how much is this going to cost me?" Because I need this bag. I need this bag to be checked in and I need this bag to get to Japan. And she goes, don't even worry about it. It's only just 1 pound over. She said, now, if it was more than like 2, 3 pounds, I would have to charge you. Right then, all I could say was, thank you, Jesus, because I was so ready to just pay whatever it was just so my bag can be checked in. Now, I had a backpack, which I use as a purse when I'm going on a flight. And then I had my medium sized duffel bag that I was going to use as a carry on. So I was good. Coasted through TSA, no problem. Get boarded onto the flight. Like I said, shenanigans was about to happen. we get we get boarded on a flight and we go to back out and we get in this long line of aircrafts. I will say for Delta, they're going to have flights that's going to go up. They stay busy. I mean, not to knock any other airlines, but Delta is going to take off and they're going to take off on time. Usually. I can honestly say there's probably been one other flight from Delta, and this was like years ago, where we took off maybe about like 15, 20 minutes late, but the pilot made up that time in the air. So we actually arrived at our destination on time. Well, we get in line to take off, and I look out the window, and there's excuse my language, a shit ton of planes ahead of us. So we're sitting and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And I'm saying to myself, thank goodness, because I was going from Detroit to Atlanta. I said, thank goodness that I have a pretty decent, um, not delay, but layover in Atlanta, which was going to be like 2.5 hours. So that was a good thing. So I was like, whatever time we take off eventually, I'm pretty sure the pilot's going to make that up in the air. We finally take off. I don't know how long we sat on the tarmac just to take off, but we were in that line for a minute because there were a lot of planes trying to take off and they were all Delta. Not surprising. Landed in Atlanta. Now, anyone who has ever flown into or out of Atlanta, you will agree with me on this. Atlanta is like a city within itself. Its airport. What airport do you know that you have to, if you're flying to a country, that you got to get on a tram to take to whatever gate you're going to fly out of? So we finally get to Atlanta and I, we deboard and I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do I go to take my next flight? Where's the terminal to where I need to go to take my next flight? Because now I'm going to go from Atlanta to South Korea. So I was going to fly into Incheon Airport. I hope I'm saying that airport name correctly. I found somebody, and he was an awesome gentleman. I said he was at working at an electronics store. I says, "Oh, hey, could you tell me where I go for Terminal F?" I I'm just throwing that out there. He says, "Yeah, you're going to go down this hallway. You're going to make a right. You're going to go down some escalator stairs and you're going to take the tram, which is probably going to be about 10 minutes, 15-minute ride to the Terminal F." And I go, "Are you kidding me right now?" And he looks at me and he's like, "No, welcome to Atlanta Airport." I was floored. So, like I said, good thing I had a long layover in Atlanta because it gave me time to get to where I need to go. I take the tram over, which I actually liked it because it was different. I mean, Detroit Metro Airport, as someone that's from Detroit, Detroit Metro Airport always said nobody can top us because we have a tram within the airport, but that tram goes from like one end of the Delta terminal to the other end. So to actually have to get on to go to another airport and get on a tram that takes you to a completely different area of the airport to me was amazing. Get to my gate, I still had enough time. They boarded us on time. It was great. I was excited because I'm getting ready to fly into Seoul. It's like, yes, I get to see, what this airport looks like because I've always seen all these K-pop artists, going in and out of here. Instead of us backing out of the gate, we sat at the gate for a half an hour. You heard me correctly. We literally sat at the gate for a half an hour. I can't even begin to tell you why we were sitting at the gate that long, but we were. And the killing thing about it was I was sitting next to a lady who was going to do a transfer in Seoul to, I believe she said she was going to the Philippines. And my transfer was going to go from Seoul to Fukuoka, Japan. Now in Seoul, I literally, once my plane would eventually landed in Incheon Airport, I would have had, it was supposed to be an hour, a little over an hour to get to my gate and get ready to board. So I thought, but because we sat at the gate in Atlanta for a half an hour, I started to get a little nervous because I'm like, okay, this is going to cut down the amount of time I have to get to my gate because I've never flown into South Korea. I don't know anything about this airport that I'm about to fly into. I was just hoping let me be able to make my flight on time. So after half an hour, we back out of the gate. And the plane is about to turn because we're about to now make our way down the tarmac, right? So I thought, plane turns, we're facing the direction we're supposed to go, and we sit there for a few more minutes. You can't make this up. I said, "What the hell is going on?" Because now I'm like, this is literally cutting into the time that I'm going to have to just literally get off this flight and get to my next flight so that I can get to Japan on time. So after a few minutes, we start to make our way so that we can line up. There was literally four planes ahead of my plane. So again, that's more waiting. Not once did the pilot come on. Not once did he come on to say, "Hey, we're going to leave like really, really late, but don't worry, I'm going to get you guys to South Korea on time." Delta's flight attendants are always amazing, okay? I've never had any bad experience with them, but they were literally making sure that everybody was okay. And I don't know if they sensed that some of us was getting a little antsy, like, yo, hey. We're not going to make our flights, our connecting flights in South Korea. So we finally take off. Finally. And I said, at that point, I said, Lord, I leave it in your hands. I just hope that I can just get to my gate on time and that, I can fly out on time because I needed to be in Japan on the 16th. And it was just like, if I missed the flight, that would delay me to the point where I probably wouldn't be able to start my training on March 17th because I would be coming in literally. So I was like, but I'm not going to worry about it because I know, hey, I'm going to be okay. We take off. We're doing good. Um the flight attendants were amazing. This is where it gets nuts. We finally land in South Korea the next day, which was the 16th. I had already, now in Japan, there was going to be somebody that was going to meet me so that they could take me to the hotel where I was going to be doing my training for like a week. So I told them I sent them my flight itinerary and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be landing in Fukuoka, Japan at 8:05 p.m. on the 16th." Land in Seoul. It took them forever to open the door to the plane. And now I'm looking at the time because I'm like, okay, it's now, at that point it was like 5:50, 5:55, 5:56. They were going to start boarding my flight to Fukuoka, Japan at 6:15, and the plane was going to take off at 6:40. So I'm just like, okay, I still got some time because I'm thinking, how big is this airport? It cannot possibly be this big. Well, it was. So finally we get off the plane. I'm hauling it to get to security so that I can go through really quick and then get to the gate, because by the time they started deboarding us off the plane, it was now 6:01. And I'm steady looking at my watch like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be tight." But I shouldn't have that far to walk. I should be good. Y'all, when I finally got to where TSA was, the line was so long. I literally looked at the lady that I was sitting next to and I said to her, I said, "There's no way I'm going to be able to make my flight on time. I don't even know what I'm going to do." And I had already, and this is where I say you have to be careful too. I don't call my podcast my solo chronicles for nothing, but I had already ported my cell phone number to Google Voice. So I couldn't even latch on to the airport's Wi-Fi in order to send a message to Japan to say, "Hey, I may either miss my flight or my flight may come in late." So I'm looking and I'm nowhere near where I got to go through security. And I'm just thinking like, what the hell am I going to do? So by the time I got to like the middle of the line for TSA, there was like two rows of people that still need to go through. And then there was a third line. I don't know what that was for. And I'm looking at the screen and then at this point it shows flight blah 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 to Fukuoka, Japan, boarding. And I go, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I am nowhere near going through security." The only thing I could think of doing at this point, I literally got close enough where I was able to tap one of the TSA security gentlemen on his shoulder. I know he looked at me like, "What?" But I don't even speak Korean. All I could think of to say was, "Hey buddy, my flight is boarding. My flight is boarding like now. Can I jump this line so that I can go?" But I wasn't the only one from my flight. There were two ladies that were behind me that was going on the same flight. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, are you going on flight blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And they was like, and so they're saying to him as well, "We need to go because our flight is boarding. So by this time, it's already like after 6:20. so so he's looking, and he kind of motions, and he says he motions to his it looked like a phone where they can communicate to each other and to the gate agents or whatever. And he says, "We'll call, we'll notify." And I'm like, "Thank you." So then he started talking to like two, three other people. And I'm looking at them as I'm getting a little bit closer to where I can now go through security. And I'm looking at them like, I have to go now. It is almost 6:30. My flight leaves at 6:40. And so they kept telling me, wait, wait, wait. And I'm just like, at this point, I started praying. I'm like, God, please let me make my flight. I cannot afford to wait for another flight out of Korea, because that's going to push back my time of getting to Japan. And I start my training like the next day, which was Monday. Mind you, this was Sunday evening. So it got to a point where now it's like it's almost 6:40. So my flight leaves at 6:40. It is now after, it's between 6:30, 6:40. So they finally made a way where it was like me, the two ladies, it was a couple and their baby. They made a line where we jumped the line and we went through security, and they started calling to the gates, letting them know, hey, these passengers are coming. They're going through security. When I tell you, I took off everything. I didn't care. If I could have took off my clothes just to run through that security screen, I would have did it, because I needed to make my flight. I get through. I'm thinking I'm going to go up these escalator stairs. I'm just going to turn a corner right, left, and my gate's going to be nearby. No, it was not. My gate was literally it was gate 234 or 235. And I go, who the hell designed this airport? Why do your gates have like three digits? In Michigan, we only have two. So I look and I see a sign and it tells you which direction to go. And when I saw that, I hauled it. I have not run like that in a while. I felt like I was running a marathon. And I'm running, and now by this time it is literally 6:36. So I have 4 minutes to get to my gate before they close the gate, and nobody can board. I kind of got sidetracked and I made this quick left, and I looked and I said, this is not where I need to go. And I always tell people, if you look at me in the eyes and I look lost, 9 times out of 10, I am. So you might need to steer me in the direction. It was a gate agent that was or she was like information. I'm not for sure what her position was, but she looks at me. I don't speak Korean, and all I could do was hold up my phone, and I started tapping it, and I'm going here, 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 here. And she looks at me and she says, "Go back, turn left, run." She literally told me to run. And I says, "Okay." And she said, "With you." So she was basically saying, "I'm gonna run with you." But she only ran halfway. As we're running, all I could hear her say was, "Run, run, run, run." And I'm hauling it. The couple with the baby, they haul ass past me. And we're like, and the husband goes, "You're running too?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But they were going to another gate that was like a gate up from where I was going. So the lady that was helping me, she stopped and she said, "Run, run, run." And I'm running because I got my backpack, mind you, strapped to my back, and I have my duffel bag. I had never run so fast in my life. Like I said, I felt like I was doing a marathon. I happened to see the gate, and what was so amazing, the gate agent, the two, well, it was actually three gate agents. It was the three gate agents. There were two that was standing right as you go in, and then there was the person that was going to check your tickets. They seen me running and they started waving me in like I was an aircraft. They kept saying, "Come, come, come." I didn't slow up my run. I just flew past them. I put up my phone, checked in, and I hauled butt again down the jet bridge into the plane. When I finally got to my seat, I was drenched in sweat. I literally made that flight. It was by the time I sat in my seat, it was about 6:41, 6:42. I made it literally as they was about to close the gate. They was about to close it. Now, the two ladies that were on the same flight as me, I don't know if they made it because we sat at the gate for a little bit. If they made it, they never walked past me. When I got off the plane in Japan, I never saw them. But when I landed in Japan, I was so happy just to be there. I couldn't do nothing but start crying. And then came the 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 commute to getting to another part of the airport in Fukuoka that wasn't the international. It was it was blistery cold outside. I didn't even care. I didn't have a hat on. I didn't have no gloves. I just had on a t-shirt and my sweat jacket. I was so hot. I get on the shuttle and I was supposed to take it over to the domestic flight. Oh, the domestic airport actually. And when the bus got there, let me show y'all how God worked. So when the bus got there, it was the last stop. So that means everybody get off because now it's picking up passengers to go back to the international airport where I had just came from. The bus driver sat there and he sat there and he sat there. So like after like a minute or two, I walk up to the front and I show him my phone and I go, "This airport." And he goes, "Hi." And he motions for me to get off. And I go, "Erogate gozaimasu." And I got off. He could have easily let passengers board and took off, but he didn't. He waited. And so I was able to go into the airport, the domestic airport. And again, more shenanigans. I go and I ask, "Where is the 7-Eleven?" Because that's where the representatives from the company I work for, that's where they wanted us to meet up at. One guy told me to go downstairs. I get downstairs and I'm like, "There's no 7-Eleven." But it was this other guy. I don't know if he was on a clock or he was just getting off. But he tried to tell me in very, very broken English how to get to 7-Eleven to the point where he just gave up and said, he just motioned for me to follow him. He literally took one of my bags and he walked with me all the way down. And it was a long walk, y'all, all the way down to the very 7-Eleven where the company representatives were at. And I don't know if anybody knows this. Most people probably do know this, especially if you've traveled to Japan. You're not allowed to tip. And I almost, I actually took my wallet out because I was about to tip him because he didn't have to walk me that far. He could have easily just pointed and just let me go on, and I probably would have still been roaming. But it was just, he took me all the way there, and I was so happy to finally be at the end of, where I'm supposed to be. So I thought, but little did I know that the commute to the hotel was going to be even more commuting. We had to literally take 3 trains to get to the hotel. When we finally came out of the very last train station to, to walk to the hotel, because the hotel was maybe about like a 5-minute walk right up the street. We were trying, the escalator stairs was actually down, so you couldn't use it. I mean, you could walk down it, but it was like cut off. I was so outdone and just so over this whole entire like 2.5 days Really, it was a day and a half. I'm exaggerating. But I was so over it. I went around the escalator stairs to go down the stairs. And I normally I would just gently bring my bags down. I didn't even care. I took my bag and I just slid it down. It literally slid down like it was on one of those conveyor belts that they use to put the bags onto the aircraft. And everybody looked and they busted out laughing. And I was like, you know what, at this point, I'm over it. It is what it is. When I got to the hotel room, all I could do was just sit there and say, thank you, Jesus, for bringing me this far. Because I easily could have missed a flight and this whole entire day would have been ruined. But I made it. I made it on the 16th of March, and I was able to start my training the next day, which was March 17th. So now I'm sitting in my apartment in a little city where I will be working in, and I look back and I says, you know, that is the adventures of doing stuff solo and just stepping out and just doing things. You know, nothing's going to be perfect. There's always going to be a monkey wrench thrown in to kind of throw you off a little bit, but it's all about how you handle it and how you are able to bounce back and just say, I'm just going to keep going. And with me, there's always something, but I always manage to just not get angry, but get my bearings and say, you know what, April, you done came this far. You got this. Because I'm going to tell you, if I would have missed my flight in Seoul, I just would have turned around, booked me another flight, and booked it to come back to Michigan. There's no way. Because I mean, it really would have just messed up the itinerary of what we needed to be doing starting that Monday. So yes. So that is it. That is my story of how I got to Japan. Finally. Thank you for listening. I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. And as I always say, my moonbeams, have a great rest of the day. Bye.